Good evening, Danvers, and welcome to the Select Board hearing of January 17th. And Matt, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have an approval of the minutes of December 20?
So moved.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you. New public business. Anyone here in the audience with not on the agenda like to speak? Mr. Bradstreet? You had three fingers up. Does that mean you got three items or just?
No. And I'm Bill Bradstreet, town meeting member, precinct 1. I don't know how to, it's a question. We're doing a massive reconstruction of one end of the square. Now, getting
Maple Square.
Maple Street, Hobart, North Putnam. My question is, with all of the improvements being made down there, the town owns some property on North Putnam Street. Will there be improvements made to the town property going along with the other properties? Not that they're going to pay for it, but are there going to be improvements made to the town property?
I think the long...
I grew up living on North Putnam Street, and to my mind, and I'm old, it looks the same as when I was growing up. I've changed. I'd like to think other things have changed, and perhaps that can change a little bit too. I'm sorry.
That's okay. One of the long-range goals that the manager's been working on is finding a single site for the DPW. Should we be successful in finding said site, then we'll have a plan to consolidate a lot of the other locations in town where we have a DPW. We did go down to, I believe it's Harbor Street, down behind the Salem 5. We put water and sewer in there, is that correct?
Street, yeah.
Canal Street, rather. That's built for a long term, but that might get consolidated as well. So stay tuned. It's on the horizon. The state has declared some property surplus, and if we can acquire that at a reasonable price and they do some of the build-out so we can get into the property, we'll be moving along.
I was just thinking of maybe a little paint or something minor to show that we care about our property and we are working on it.
So that's interesting. Of all the tours I've taken as a select board member with the town manager in the previous one, we never toured that site. I wonder if they're hiding it from us for a reason. I'll drive by.
Thank you. You're working on it.
Anyone with anything else? New business not on the agenda? Wonderful. Thank you, Bill. A public hearing will be held under Chapter 138 of the general laws on the application of the Modern Butcher, DBA The Modern Butcher, 36 Maple Street, Warren Means, manager, for a wine and malt common viculars license at that location. Mr. Means, and please go to the microphone. You're there. Welcome back. You weren't here too long ago.
Round two.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
round two. Wonderful. Before we start, the clerk, is all the paperwork in order?
It is, thank you.
You got a check?
I don't have a check yet, but they're gonna drop that off tomorrow.
Okay, if we approve it.
Yes.
If
Thank
you
you.
approve
That
it,
makes
yes.
sense. Please tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, so we decided that we wanted to add another element to the shop, that being beer and wine. I'm not trying to promote like a bar room kind of feel. It's not our intention to have any sort of bar or anything like that. It's more of just like an enhancement to the experience that you would have at the shop. We do have a couple seats, which is new, which we talked about last time, inside the premises. And we just thought it would be, cool to add to the experience if we were able to do so.
And I've been in the hospitality front of the house in food and beverage for over 2 decades. So I've had experience doing first level sommelier training under a Master of Wine, and same thing, Cicerone training for craft beer. So it's kind of always been a dream to have that element added to the butcher shop. And as we spoke before, kind of our shop is an extension of our kitchen. It's an extension of our home. We don't want you just to come in really quickly and get a pound of steak tips and leave. We want you to really experience, have a sandwich, enjoy just a really great selected craft beer or beautiful wine, and be able to watch Warren breaking down a four-quarter, asking questions, and having that full experience.
Again, the hours of operation?
So we're going to add a Sunday to our week. So it's going to be Tuesday to Friday, 11 to 5. Saturday, 11 to 4. I believe we discussed Sunday, 11 to 2.
So basically, you're just going to be open for lunches
And early dinner.
and early dinner. That's very early dinner. But that's okay.
On Sunday, I eat all day, so all day is dinner for me. So Italian.
All right, questions, Gardner?
Sure, I'll ask my standard questions. I didn't see, and maybe it's on another page on the application, how many hours you said you would be there on premise? Who's going to be the liquor license holder?
It'll be me.
Okay,
So I will be there all operating hours, myself.
Okay. All right.
She will also be tip certified and kind of my right-hand person on that one as well, especially because of her experience. So she will also be there all operating hours. Again, that's the control that we need to feel comfortable with the business.
okay. Does that mean you, if you're the liquor license holder, will you be the alternate on the license?
I will.
Yes.
Okay. And this is for on-premise sale only, not if I take out, I can't take a beer with me?
Correct.
Okay. And in your, I don't see it in this plan, but in the plan you presented last time, did you envision outside seating at all?
Yes, but there will be no alcohol allowed outside.
Thank you.
You're
Those are my
welcome.
questions.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Those are my questions. I see a trip certification, and you explained your experience in food service and in front house liquor service. My daughter's also a sommelier, so I know how much goes into that. So thank you very much. Those are my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I think it just allows the store to be more competitive with surrounding establishments. So I fully support this, and I continue to wish you success. The anticipation has been for your
crazy.
grand opening.
No pressure at all in any of this.
Got a lot of good press.
It's scary.
All set, Matt?
I'm all set, thank you.
David?
Your enthusiasm is really, really impressive and refreshing, and how nice that you have a confidence in our Danvers Square, that you're making this investment, not just of your money, but of your obvious commitment. I'm wondering, is your sandwich menu online yet? How do I find out what you're serving?
So it's going to be different. So right now,
Very different.
we do one sandwich a day.
Just one sandwich? So
For
It
now.
is, yes. And it changes daily, with the exception of Saturday, which is always the North Shore beef. So what
Oh.
Supreme's is known for and Giovanni's, like it's that very staple sandwich. So now with having a bigger space and why we originally wanted to move, and it gives us the opportunity to have a larger menu. So we're still going to maintain that one sandwich a day. So every day you come in, there's going to be a completely different sandwich. But we will have a permanent 5 sandwiches, like 5 to 6, that are going to be there every day. They won't be, if you've ever seen our Instagram or Facebook, they're very saucy and big, and it's
So I
going to be a
don't
little
have to-
more.
I don't have to eat just what you tell me.
No.
Okay.
No.
But I promise if you do, it's good.
It's so nice to have your enthusiasm,
Yeah.
and I wish you well.
You have to love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll
You
be
really
there.
do.
Oh,
And
I'll
as
be
a
there.
small business, it would be more financially stable for us to do just a regular butcher shop that would only bring in the high-end cuts, ribeyes in New York. But for us, you're kind of like, what do you do with the rest? So as a whole animal butcher, we utilize every single piece.
Really?
We have a lot of bones. You're going to make broth, stock,
Oh,
all of our
interesting.
fats. We make
you.
Candles, face
Soap.
creams. We're working on diaper cream, just trying to utilize every part of the animal.
How
So it's a lot of work,
Ton of work.
but you gotta love it.
Okay, can't wait. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome, David. Warren, will you be hiring additional help?
We're gonna have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. You're
We're
need
gonna
help
have to.
behind the scenes? Are you going to have help serving the sandwiches and the liquor?
So that's primarily going to fall on us. The help that we're going to hire will be, we're probably looking to do some counter help. So simple things like pulling a steak tip or a sausage out of the case. We'll be probably looking to hire some sort of a part-time chef that'll help prep things like soups and pastas and things like that, the broths and the stocks. Again, everything really falls on the two of us. That's the only way this thing works. We're there to ensure the quality and the performance of the team by us actually physically being there and essentially outworking our team. So they have confidence in us and they see how hard we're working. So it's something that we're never going to take our hands off of. It's our name on it.
Never say never, Warren.
No, that's
Never.
I know her and
I'm
I
a
know
crazy person.
I know her and I know myself, and that's
It's-
something that we'll never give up.
Yeah.
All right, great.
That's just how we operate.
Okay, thank you, Warren. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience with any questions? Hearing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. What's the will of the board?
I move we accept the application as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Good luck. And again, when are you going to open, do you think?
March-ish,
March, okay.
as long as everything
We're on track
goes,
right
yeah.
now, so
And have you closed the
Knock on wood.
report?
We'll be
Not yet.
closing
2 weeks prior to the
March,
opening.
2
Yeah.
weeks prior, okay. I know a lot of my friends up there are very disappointed.
yeah.
So I told them to come to Danvers.
We have
Exactly.
a couple opportunities that are going to allow us still to be able to supply some things to our customers up there by pre-order, and so
Okay.
we won't forget them.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good luck.
Awesome.
Thank you.
The board will vote to accept gifts in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two gift acceptances tonight. I can describe both of them, and then one vote to be taken to accept them. The first is a $20,000 gift from the Friends of Endicott Park to replace equipment from the 1970s on the park's almost 2-mile fitness trail. Very generous donation. It's a feature at the park that in portions are in disrepair and kind of blends in, but this is yet another way for people to be physically fit at the park, and it's overdue and again, very generous. The second is equally generous. It's a $5,000 donation from a private citizen in support of the Transportation Revolving Fund at the Senior Center. It's in memory of Carolyn Talberday, and it is being given, again, to support that critical service that is relied upon by many Danvers seniors.
Thank you. Questions, David?
No questions, thank you. Oh,
Matt?
wonderful.
No, it's nice to hear that this fitness trail is being rejuvenated. I think some trees have taken out some of the components, so it's been in existence for quite a while, quite a few years, so it's good to see that it's being rebuilt. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Gardner?
No, I'm pleased that Friends of the Endicott Park volunteer so much of their time and their effort, the Mackenzies and the other members of the Friends, to keeping up the park. It's a great jewel to Danvers, and I'm glad that they're doing this. I can't thank them enough, and to the private citizen who wants to help with the bus at the senior center. I'm all set.
Thank you. What's the will of the board?
I move we accept both of the donations on behalf of the board with an appropriate letter of thanks.
And that's for both donations?
For both.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. The board will vote to adopt the budget goals and objectives as amended for fiscal 2024. And we did discuss the budget goals a couple of times, and we did amend it per the request of Selectman Trask. And on the back side, on the ongoing objectives, we added specifically in terms of education work with necessary parties to achieve a more equitable, predictable, and proportional assessment from Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School. And we had discussed the balance of the goals for fiscal '24, the long-term goals. I'll just ask if there's any questions from members of the board before we vote. David?
No questions, thank you, Dan.
Matt?
No.
Gardner?
No questions. I appreciate the accommodation.
You're welcome. So we have the budget and goals objectives to vote on. Is there a motion?
I move we accept the amended budget goals and objectives.
And second?
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Have to slow down here.
No, you don't.
Here we go. Here's the main event. The town clerk will present information and request a vote by the board on vote by mail and in-person early voting for the May 2nd, 2023 annual town elections. So, board members, we're looking at only the May 2nd, 2023 annual election for this cycle. Come 2024, things will be of a different nature, but I'll ask the clerk to bring us up to date.
Thank you. So in your packet, you received minutes from a registrar of voter meeting that we had last week. At that meeting, the registrars voted to make a recommendation, although a recommendation for opting out is not required by the registrars. We talked about it, reviewed it, and the registrars voted 3-1 to recommend vote opting out of vote by mail for the May 2nd annual town election. A second vote was taken to recommend an in-person early voting day for the May 2nd annual town election to be held on Saturday, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the Toomey Room, provided that the board opts out. We would recommend the in-person early voting day.
Okay.
If there are any questions,
Yep,
I'm happy to answer.
David, any questions?
Thank you, no.
Okay, Matt?
I believe at the last meeting, we talked about doing a mass mailing just for the town election to 22,000, approximately 22,000 voters. Is that still on the table?
For each election, what's going to happen is, starting in 2024, with the presidential election, the state is going to send out those cards. Once those cards go out, then you're going to find an unlevel playing field for local elections, because the state will have sent those cards out. So once that happens, we really, in order to keep the playing field level, we would need to do the same thing for every election at the cost that we talked about at the last meeting.
Okay.
So in my mind, once you choose a path, you know, you kind of want to stick with it to keep the playing field level at the local
Yeah,
election.
be consistent year over year.
Correct.
Okay, all right, that's all I have, thank you.
Gardner?
So I guess so are we saying is the registrar suggesting opt out of vote by mail, have a Saturday in-place voting, and then will we consider after the 2024 state mailing that we would continue on with that practice?
The select board, the opportunity to opt out is the decision of the select board.
Mhm.
A recommendation does not need to be made by the registrar of voters.
Understanding, but we're not going to do it, we're going to do it one way until the state starts, and then another way.
That sounds about right. We're dealing with 2023.
Right.
The only election is the local.
It is a local election. We'll have a Saturday for that. We
Right.
won't have a
Mail-in.
mass mailing,
Right.
though we all know absentee ballot voting is still allowed under the current conditions of absentee ballot.
Yes.
We're not just being preemptive and sending out a mail that says this can happen.
Right. We are also opting out of vote by mail
Right.
would only allow absentee
Only allow absentee.
voting,
Okay.
as well as that in-person.
And then we'll
Yeah. You
reevaluate
can
this after
reevaluate.
2024
Yep, certainly.
starts, but
Yep.
then maybe go for the consistency from that point forward.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would behoove
Yeah,
the next board
me
or the
too.
next year to look at it.
So basically, start now or start later.
Right. Yeah, pretty
And
much.
starting now, it's only one election, it's us.
Yep.
Correct.
All right, I'm comfortable and in favor of this.
So page 3 has recommended or not recommended motions that we can take.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yep, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion number one, a motion to opt out of vote by mail for the May 2nd, 2023 annual town election.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, thank you.
Oh, could you take that as a roll call vote,
I,
please?
well, I'm sorry. Roll call vote, David Mills,
Yes.
Matt Duggan,
Yes.
Gardner Trask.
Yes.
Dan Bennett, yes.
And that's opt out.
Opt out.
Thank you.
And the second motion?
A motion to designate Town Hall, 1 Sylvan Street, as the in-person early voting location for the May 2nd, 2023 annual town election. In-person early voting to be held on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the Toomey Room at Town Hall, 1 Sylvan Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll take a roll call vote. Matt?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Dan? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
in addition, you also have the important dates for the May 2nd, 2023 election. I will update that with the information on in-person early voting. I'll add the location, the dates, the times, and then that we are opting out of vote by mail. I would also remind people that nomination papers will be available on February 1st for all of the open positions. So there would be 6 seats in each precinct, moderator seat, 1 select board seat, 2 school committee seats, 3 library trustee seats, and 1 Danvers Housing Authority seat.
Okay,
And I'll get that information on the website.
great.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you, board members.
Dan, before
Yes.
we leave, may I speak?
Yes, you may.
I just think that our town clerk and her colleagues in the clerk's office do a phenomenal job of managing the intricacies of voting in Massachusetts and particularly in Danvers. So I just say thank you for a great job. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. 7, the board will vote to appoint Corinne Doherty, presently the alternate, to a full ZBA membership. Mr. Town Manager, we have Corinne, we didn't need her here, we know who she is, she's been here before. And this is a vote of the Select Board to elect her to a full ZBA membership. Will she be fulfilling an unexpired term?
Correct. Becky Kilborn resigned, and with that resignation letter received, the recommendation is that the board elevate Corinne to fulfill the remainder of Becky's term. I believe that is 2 years remaining.
So, and this will keep everybody on that cycle that
This
we
will be-
approved last time?
That is correct. And there
Okay.
will be a vacancy created on the ZBA as a result.
For the alternate?
Correct.
Okay. Questions, David?
No, thank you, Dan.
Matt?
Yeah, I support this, this appointment as a full-time member. Corinne's been an alternate for a number of years. She attends all the meetings, she's fully engaged, does her homework, asks articulate and relevant questions, so I think she's going to be a good fit for being a full-time member.
Good, thank you for that update, that's good to know. Gardner?
No, I support the recommendation of the ZBA and of the town manager.
Okay, so can we have a motion?
I move we accept Corinne Doherty as the full ZBA member to fill the term of Sally Calhoun.
Second.
Becky Kilborn.
Becky.
Yeah, that's not necessary at the end, just
Okay. To fill the open
become
ZBA
a
term.
ZBA, right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, thank you. It's not even 7 o'clock yet, Steve. Are you ready for your report?
Well, I think I have 8 updates. You guys were going so quickly, I just kept jotting things down, so I'll balance it out a little bit. And I'll start with, I guess I'll go backwards. With the opening on the ZBA, I wanted to ask the board, we have a number of open seats on boards and committees. Thinking back to some of the discussion we had in this room over the last several months, we would like to put out an advertisement of some sort, notifying the public of all of the openings that we have currently. Obviously, the ZBA alternate position would be one of those. I wanted to ask specifically about the vacant airport commissioner seat. With the resignation of Matt Mosier, we would recommend including that in the listing, and then the question for the board would be, I believe the last time we had an opening, candidates were asked to submit, in addition to just filling out our talent pool form, I believe they provided a letter stating their interest, and I wanted to revisit that with this board.
Well, I personally think that would be appropriate. Somebody going into that position has to have some knowledge of the airport activities and the airport itself, so that whatever that experience is, it would be looked upon as a requirement, in my opinion. Anybody have other comments?
I don't mind that we might ask, but I guess for consistency's sake, I am certainly certain that when any candidate comes before us, for that board or others, we ask questions that we feel pertinent. Do you attend meetings? What do you know about the subject matter? So on and so forth. Are we setting one board or commission separate in some separate process than the others? I'd almost like to ask every opening. Anybody who replies, say, I am so-and-so, and this is my interest.
Yeah, I wonder, on the applications, is there not room for some type?
There is room,
Yeah.
and I think one option, halfway in between, consistent with the last opening, would be start by putting out the notification. Once people respond, we can share that information with the board, and then perhaps that group would be invited prior to coming before the board to submit something. And we can talk about that at the next meeting if the board is looking.
Like a two-step process? I'm not sure.
Well, last time, once candidates identified themselves, the board discussed having them provide a written letter of interest that the board received before the interviews took place. I think step one is to advertise the opening, and then.
But again, I'm wondering now if maybe the application is sufficient and fair.
Sure.
So maybe I'll change my thought and have that application, and if we want more information, I think we have the prerogative to ask for it.
But what I guess my thinking was this: the talent pools that people fill out are just talent pools without knowledge of what they're necessarily going to be going after. So
The form.
it does have check boxes.
Well, it asks, the form does ask boards or committee of interest, relevant experience, volunteer experience, et cetera. So there is some room to provide information on them, but not a lot.
Yeah, I just want to make the process consistent.
Yep.
I don't care how we make it consistent.
Well, I think the manager wants to advertise, we gotta advertise, and then we'll
Sure.
probably go from there. We have the leeway to make changes.
Very good.
Any other comments down here on the right?
Writing,
Excuse me?
writing,
I can't hear you.
I think the advertisement is an excellent idea. I don't think we've ever done that before. But among other things, it also tells the community that it is an open process and that any citizen and every citizen is welcome to inquire and to apply. As far as questions about qualifications and knowledge, I've always worried about, as people know through the years, I've always worried about the Zoning Board of Appeals because I come from that tradition, and I used to deal with Peter Bryson, the most stringent building inspector in the history of Massachusetts. And we went by the book. And of course, Peter was present at the ZBA meetings, so things really went by the book. And I noticed my own observation is that was not happening in the last 5 or 10 years. And I always thought that it would be important to have members of the planning board and the ZBA to attend a educational school or maybe have our town council produce some videotapes or CD discs of instruction as to just what the law is and just what the function of that board is and what the function of that board isn't. I remember a ZBA meeting in this room some 25 years ago. McDonald's was looking to add up on Andover Street to add some additional building for children's room, to add some. And a member of the zoning board says, well, I don't like that idea. Well, I was in the audience, and of course I was ruled out of order. I kind of stood up and said, what do you mean you don't like that? It's nothing to do with whether you like it or not. well, I was asked to please not do that again, and I didn't. But that's the concern that I've always had, especially with the zoning board, that someone likes it or doesn't like it, or likes somebody's neighbor or doesn't like somebody's neighbor. And it's so important to me, and I think to the integrity of the process, that the members of the boards know what the law is, know that they are to apply the law, and they have, in the old days, there was nothing. There was no necessity. I remember 30 years ago, 40 years ago, some people appointed to the boards. I couldn't believe in any event. That's what I think, that it's a good thing to instruct. I think it's a good thing to require people to provide some evidence of their knowledge about what the work of the board is, what the law is applicable, and why they have a particular interest in it. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Okay, you're welcome. Next item?
On the topic of the airport, there's a virtual meeting scheduled for tomorrow. The city advertised the position of airport manager. They received 20 applications, and the mayor asked our commissioner, Aaron Henry, and myself to serve on the screening committee. So we'll be meeting, the screening subcommittee will be meeting tomorrow afternoon and going through the first round of applications. So very strong turnout. The city increased the rate of pay slightly in the posting for this particular round of hiring, and it seems to have paid off. So more to follow, but I wanted to give a preliminary update on that. Moving across, you did receive copies tonight of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR. This is the town's audit. Spoiler alert, it's clean, but we'll have the auditor, Melanson, joining us either in person or virtually on February 7th to review the findings in the audit. If you're bored during the next 2 weeks and want to read it in great detail, feel free to ask questions. You can call me or Finance Director Rodney Conley. You can shoot us an email, but the Melanson will be going through the highlights of the audit with us at that meeting. I'm sure David Mills will provide an update, but I wanted to comment on the MLK event last night at the high school. It was a beautiful event. Dan and Gardner were there as well. As is usually the case, the music was the highlight for me anyway. Brandeis University was represented. The high school was represented. St. John's Prep was represented. I'd like to thank specifically Dr. Dutriche Joko and Jasmine Ramon, the chair of HRIC and our DEI director, for putting together a terrific event, and the whole HRIC, and Dr. Charlie Desmond was recognized and the recipient of the Drum Major for Justice Award last night for very impressive lifetime achievements in many fields. The MMA annual meeting is this Friday and Saturday. If anybody's interested in attending for one day or both days, registration is still open, and you can reach out to Ann Freitas tomorrow in the town manager's office, and she can assist if that's something that anybody's interested in doing. This Thursday at the middle school from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., the strategic plan visioning workshop will be held. A series of focus groups have been conducted over the last couple of weeks to start to gather some preliminary information, and Thursday will mark the official kickoff of the process. A presentation similar to the one that this board received several months ago, providing a trend analysis of the town, demographic change over time, financial change over time, and posing some questions. That'll start the evening, and then there will be some opportunities for attendees to break into smaller groups and really dig into the nuts and bolts of what this process is and start to develop some ideas for where we all want to go.
Is that Holton Richmond?
Holton Richmond, 6 p.m. And really this is the start of a process that's going to go right through the spring and summer and into the fall. The goal remains to have a draft plan by November or December of 2023. So all are welcome, and the more the merrier. The consultant will have a large team there to help facilitate and keep things moving. So please come and bring a friend. Next Thursday, the new website will be migrating. So by Friday, If you go onto the Town of Danvers website and poke around, hopefully you will be blown away and very impressed. But if you're not, you can let us know that as well. But this is a project that was funded through ARPA. It's been many months coming, and the staff is excited to launch that, and I think it's going to be much better received than the current website.
Steve, can you confirm that date? Is that Thursday next week, which would be the
Thursday,
26th?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thursday afternoon, and then by Friday it'll be hours in behind the scenes to make that happen. Most folks probably know, but the school committee voted unanimously to appoint Dan Bauer as our next superintendent. He's currently the high school principal in Marblehead. Extensive experience, worked previously in Beverly. He's a resident of Beverly. He was in attendance at the MLK event last night. I had a chance to meet all of the candidates. The school committee did have a difficult choice. They had 3 strong candidates apply, and I know Dan is eager to get started. He'll be working in Marblehead through the end of the school year, but as was evidenced last night, I think he'll have a foot in both worlds as he makes the transition to Danvers. Quick update on the Student Town Advisory Committee, which was presented to this board in 2022. The high school and the committee that is working to put this together is currently accepting applications through the end of next week. And at that point, the committee will review the applicants and eventually bring a slate of recommendations before the select board. So at some point this spring, that process will conclude. And finally, on January 23rd at 7:30 p.m., in partnership with the Lappin Foundation, there will be a virtual short film on anti-Semitism. There's information on the town's social media, and anybody who's interested in registering for that event can feel free to reach out to my office. But again, that's January 23rd, 7:30 p.m. It's about a 1-hour virtual event. So all are welcome to that as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the manager? Nope, okay. The board will consider the consent calendar, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Correspondence, select board, new business, et cetera, et cetera. Matt,
I'm all set, thanks.
David?
I just wanted to mention once again that our senior center publishes on a monthly basis a very comprehensive, helpful booklet, which is online, but it's also available. They'll mail it to anybody who requests it. Anybody my age should not stay home alone and feel lonely. There are lots of things to do at the senior center. I also am a big fan of the programs at the Danvers YMCA. Men, women, children, older people, great stuff going on. Don't stay home. And then if you didn't come to the high school atrium last night, you missed a real treat. As Steve has already mentioned, the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, led by Chair Dee Joko, and also to our Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Jasmine, put on what it's like. I think we've done this for about 30 years. I forget exactly how many years, celebrating the work of, initially it was called diversity, and it is now human rights and inclusion. And we used to have dinners down at the Danvers Boat Yacht Club, which were great in the old days when Susan Fletcher was around to organize them. I don't know how she did all the work, but we had that ballroom filled sometimes for several years with people coming. We had a wonderful dinner. And then at some point, we have changed it over to the atrium. And maybe it's because when the high school, the atrium was completed. The annual, it's called the Martin Luther King celebration, but it is for the Committee for Inclusion and Human Rights. It was just great. And I think of, in the month leading up to it every year, I think about scallops wrapped in bacon, a little spanakopita, The food down there every year is so wonderful, and it wasn't all eaten last night. But the music was great. We had a group from St. John's Prep. We had a group from Brandeis. We had a couple, or a group from the Danvers High School, of course. The music was wonderful. The speakers were all relatively brief. Steve, as usual, did a very gracious, welcoming job on behalf of the town and the select board. But Representative Kearns and Senator Lovely did great presentations. Our chair, Dee, is so articulate and such. There is so much to him which he conveys into the entire room and in the presentation of the annual award that we went to Charlie Desmond. It was just a great, great night, and I'm sorry that maybe we don't publicize it enough, because the room was pretty full, but it wasn't completely full, and the weather was okay. So that was a great thing, and I have nothing else except to say that I don't know what our new website is going to do by way of making it easy to examine activities of the Senior Center and of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. But I'm going to ask everybody, like I will on Friday, jump on that website, take a look at it, see if it's user-friendly for you, and if it isn't, please let us know, because for better or worse, even for people my age, this is the way, this is the way we communicate, and this is the way we give notice of what's going on in your government, in your town. So check it Friday. Is that the day, Steve? It'll be operative, the new?
Next Friday.
Yeah, and let's find out if it's user-friendly, and if it isn't, ask if we can make it more user-friendly. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, David. Gardner?
Thank you. I also attended the MLK event. It was great. Music was fantastic, and you couldn't have picked a better recipient for the Drum Major for Justice Award, Dr. Charles Desmond. So very pleased to have been there, and everybody else spoke about the event. So I was also going to mention the Strategic Plan meeting on Thursday. If people couldn't attend, you know, so often we hear, why is the town like this? Why are we overbuilding? Why are we doing this, that, and the other thing? Just like when we did the overlay district. We had a lot of input, a lot of participation by the public, and it really helps people to feel like they're part of the process. I encourage people to be there, especially the people who have issues and concerns, you know, and often voice them. This week we'll have an Affordable Housing Trust meeting on Wednesday and a River Committee meeting on Thursday. Both of them are public meetings. People are welcome to attend at any time. And I, too, am looking forward to the website. I had sent back some initial comments when the board was asked to review a sandbox version of it, and it looks great. I'm looking forward to dated documents and those documents that clearly indicate there's another document that supersedes it. So if you go and look at Zoning Board of Appeals and you get to one document, you can find out that it might be an older version and that there's a fresher version, things of that nature. Other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read a letter. I received an email on the 14th of this month. I am writing to you today because I believe our community must urgently pass a building electrification policy and phase fossil fuels out of our homes and businesses. Buildings are responsible for 13% of greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S. And a recent study from the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that gas stoves are responsible for 1 in 8 cases of childhood asthma. That's on par with secondhand smoke. Burning gas in homes also generates harmful emissions of formaldehyde, methane, nitrogen oxide, and other pollutants. As your constituent, I'm urging you to do everything in your power to ensure new buildings and our communities are all electric and help phase gas and other fossil fuels out of existing buildings. And I responded to the writer and let her know that we do have a group in Danvers, we'll call it short CASPA, but it's the Resilient Danvers, taking a climate action advisory group role to come up with a plan of action for the community. And I let her know that we're actually having our 3rd meeting tomorrow at Endicott College, not Endicott College, excuse me, at the North Shore Community College, Math and Science Building, 10:30 to 12:30, and we are looking at these things. We've been talking about greenhouse gases since 2019. We've hired a consulting firm. We're reviewing these things, so I take her email with all seriousness, but I guess we need to wait for the Casper Advisory Group report at the end of the year, and I look forward to receiving that. I think there should be some good information, some good goals and guidelines, how to become more climate resilient. But I do want to ask the town manager and put it out there that perhaps it's time to review our building codes in reference to new buildings on electrification. We've already set your goals for this year, but I think next year I'll make that a goal to review the building codes after we've received this report. So I think I appreciate this constituent writing, and we take it serious. There's no doubt about it.
I would note too that the stretch code is around. It is adjustments to that, strengthening it are being discussed legislatively and at the MMA. And my understanding is that a draft of the Casper plan will be out early this year, and I fully expect, based on my information, that this will be addressed in some form. A lot of the recommendations coming out of that report will be a combination of votes that the town meeting may have to take, lobbying at the state level to affect change. There may be some budgetary or policy decisions that this board or a future board will have the authority to make, also the light board, et cetera. So there will be a lot of information in that report. I also received that email, and you beat me to it in terms of directing her to the Casper process.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I also received the email. I assume that we all did, even though it was individually sent to us. I would just,
She must understand the open meeting law. She sent it
You
in.
know, and it was
I
great.
appreciate that.
I would caution that, I guess this is a general caution, not about this subject, not about any, but we often get presented with a statement about a study here, a article published there, what it was. In this case, I've looked at that article, and it's informative and interesting, but there are other articles as well, and to state 1 out of 8, well, that leaves 7 out of 8. So correlation is not causation. And I'm just cautious about taking any action based on any particular one study. We've been sitting here recently hearing from the airport and the neighbors who are concerned about a study that was done in California about lead emissions. And I get the concern. I understand the statement. I just want to be cautious about reacting based on 1 or 2 of these articles.
Well, I think it's her last sentence that spells it out. She talks about some issues, but she wants to ensure new buildings.
And that's
She's
fine.
not,
Yep.
she's not
Bunch of those.
suggesting we send the gas police out to people's homes. That's not going to happen. But I think, look, going forwards, we need to make some changes, and I appreciate her pointing this out, that the greenhouse gases, 13% of from gas. We know 42% is from cars. I mean, it's all.
No, and it all adds up,
It
again.
all adds up.
And there's a footprint, there's footprint related to electricity too, and it's all to be weighed, I
Well, yeah,
understand.
we can debate many of these issues, but I appreciate her writing it.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Casper coming before us, and then we'll look forward to making changes.
Great.
Thank you. Anything else to come
Dan?
before the board?
Dan,
Yes.
can I just float a thought while we're talking about energy and savings and environmental stuff? I live across the street. My bathroom's on the 2nd floor, and that's where I have a shower, and my water heater's in the basement. And every time I do that, I have to let the water run because it's not point of use heat. It's in the basement. Somehow, at some point, I hope and believe, probably not in my lifetime, there is going to be code requirements so that water heaters are located at the point of use rather than 200 feet away. I don't know how much water.
That's a very good observation. Yep.
Just to mention it, when we're in the topic of,
Yep.
you know, safe stuff, and just wanted to float it, because I think about it all the time, every morning when I waste all that water, which is not so bad when we want to sell water, but it's terrible when we have the situation we had last summer. Okay, that's all, thank you.
That's a good point, thank you. Okay. So, folks, please recognize the vets. When you see a vet, thank them for their service. And if there's no other business to come before the board, the meeting's adjourned at 7:20 almost.
Wow.